Welcome, Akshay sir.
Yeah. Hello.
Yes,
So
sir.
welcome all of you.
Yes, sir.
So
Now I think we
I think,
can start the
yeah, I
session.
think we can start. Okay. So first of all, good evening, everyone. I think yesterday's session was informative enough, and I think the enthusiasm would have, you know, rejuvenated right now. It has been one day, so I think let me share my screen right now. So is the screen visible to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is where we left off yesterday. So this was about the basics of hydroponics. Yesterday we discussed some basic, uh, you know, types of hydroponics and different types of growing media. How hydroponics is an integral part of farming's future, and how it is different from the traditional type of farming. So all of the things that we discussed yesterday will come up in the next coming slides. So it will be a sort of revision for you also, and it will be very easy to follow from now on. Okay. So I hope you will be taking notes today also. And anyhow, we'll be providing you with a recording of this session also. So let us start with the basics of hydroponics. Okay, so here it is. So one of you actually asked me a question yesterday whether seed sowing is a process in hydroponics. Hello. Yeah. So one of you asked me if the seed sowing is also a part of hydroponics. So it is. So short answer, it is. Long answer, actually there are different types of hydroponics as we discussed yesterday. But for the most part, there are the seed sowing. Uh, this transplantation is a one part of hydroponics process. It may or may not be integral. So there are times then we can where we can do direct sowing also. But this is a very typical flow chart of what happens at a hydroponics farm. First of all, there is a preparation stage. So we will be selecting crops according to our needs, according to the market's needs, according to what kind of weather we have, what kind of climate we have, and what time of the year it is. Okay, there are a lot of factors that go into crop selection, and as of right now in hydroponics, we have very limited amount of crops that are actually very they come in that category, that come in a sweet spot where it is financially viable also, and it's relatively easier to do also, because hydroponics itself is relatively new in Indian topography, right? So there are not a lot of experts in the market as of right now. So the crop selection is a very important stage where we have to identify the kind of crops that we can easily manage on our own with the help of some expertise. Then we go with preparing the layout of that crop. So as I told you, hydroponics is a very sophisticated setup. Okay, so there is not we are trying to minimize the margin of error as much as possible. So what ends up happening is that this layout is planned in a way that we have very uh, you know everything is planned in such a way that we can stick to that particular calendar, and we do not have to worry about things going out of hand in the future. So we are trying to eliminate every single problem that we have in the open field farming. So that preparing the layout of this farming, layout of this crop, as well as what kind of crops are being grown in that particular setup, it has to be planned accordingly. Okay, then it comes to the sowing stage. Once we have finalized what kind of crops we are going with, so the sowing can be done directly in the grow bags, which is relatively rare. But for most of the time, what we'll do is we will prepare a growing mixture. Sometimes it can be simple growing media like uh, we have oasis cubes where we can it is a pre-made sort of growing media specifically for seeds, so we can grow the saplings in there. Otherwise we'll make a simple sapling growing mixture, with coco peat and coir with the vermiculite mixture. We can make that and fill them up in seedling trays. So all in all, we will have a sowing stage, just like we have in open field farming. We can prepare a sapling separate from the growing area. Okay, so this can range from 5 to 10 days for short-term crops to it can go to up to 1 month for the sapling preparation stage for larger crops. Then it comes to transplantation. Now, transplantation also happens in two stages. In some places, in sometimes for some kind of plants, it can directly go into the growing bag where it will complete the rest of its cycle, or it can go to another intermediate nutrient bed where it will grow further and it will be transplanted once more. Okay, that uh, leads us to the fourth stage where the growth is monitored. Now this is the time where it the plant will you know be in this growing stage for the most of its life cycle. So it will either be in a growing bag or in the NFT channels or in the DWC culture, whatever system we have opted for. And alternatively, if the double transplantation is required in that particular crop, we need to further space it out. We can transfer it to the main nutrient bed also. Uh, is it clear? So we have different types of crops, but this is a basic flow chart, but it can vary accordingly, and you will always need an agronomist's opinion on which on how much you want to strictly follow this typical routine. Okay, then we go towards the examples of the double transplantation crops. Okay, I think uh, there are crops coming up. I will give you an example in the next coming slides. It will be easier for me to explain how this works. Okay, so there are times, for example, okay, let me. Okay, I'll come to you a couple of slides later. I'll come to you with this. Okay, Manoj. Uh, Let me finish this because yesterday also I got caught up in all this and the session got stretched out a little longer. Okay, so coming to this, the harvesting part. Now this is the final stage. This also is a stage which can stretch for a while. So for example, in crops like if we are harvesting something like spinach, or we are harvesting something like lolo rosso or Lucarno. Now, these do not have a very, very large period where we can harvest them. Typically 10 to 15 days. This will be the harvesting, window where we can directly cut that top off and we can directly sell it. Now, there are crops like capsicum and tomatoes where this harvesting period can be a very long period of up to 1 to 2 months easily. Okay, so we'll be harvesting on a daily or weekly basis, and then it comes to the cleaning and maintenance. As soon as one particular crop has gone through this from preparation to the harvesting part, we started preparing the system for the next crop. For that, a cleaning and maintenance check is very compulsory. We do not want any, residue of previous crop to come in the newer crop because it might be a different crop. The nutrient mix might be different. We do not want any diseases that might have come in the previous crop to affect the next crop. Okay, so this is the basic of hydroponics. Now, to make it even more interesting and easier to understand, we will go all through these. It will come up in different ways. So let me show you how the life cycle of leafy exotics work. Now this will give you a time frame also and give you a better idea of how this flowchart actually functions. Okay, so for example, in the case of leafy exotics, now this you see, these are the oasis tubes. We directly put seeds in them and wait for the saplings to grow uh, pretty much in this stage. I think these are 5 days short of transplanting, and in another 5 or 6 days, this uh, sapling will be transplanted into the net pot, which will directly go in the NFT or DWC culture. it will go in the main system. For now, on the day zero, when we start sowing, we see the third to fifth day, we start to see the germination of the seeds. That means the shoot and root will start coming out of the seed and will be visible. Then, if when we start increasing the TDS, now what does TDS mean in this context is that the TDS or ppm, this is a way of finding out the sapling is in what. This is the oasis cube, somebody. This is the oasis cube that we talked about. Now it is one kind of growing media that is used for growing the saplings from seed to sapling. That stage, it is a pre-made growing mixture, not exactly mixture, growing media. It is a pre-made, pre-shaped. It comes in the form of cubes, and it's very readily available, and it's very easy to function with. You do not have to make your own growing media mixture. So I was talking about TDS. Okay. So what does TDS mean in this context is that the uh, the the water is being introduced with a lot of nutrients. Okay, so it's a nutrient mixture water. So as we are using very highly filtered water, it's very easy to identify that any foreign material in that water most likely will be nutrient mixture. Okay, so for example, we have 1 liter of water and we added 10 ml of nutrient mixture. So TDS or ppm or these kind of meter, it's all the same. This ppm meter or TDS meter, what it will help with, okay, and I will speak in Hindi also. So what this will do is, it will help us to measure the amount of nutrient that is available in the water. For example, हम लोग एक हम लोग जब जर्मिनेशन स्टेज में है एंड वी वांट कि हमारा जो टीडीएस है वाटर का, मतलब जो न्यूट्रिएंट है पर लीटर ऑफ वाटर या पर मिलियन पार्ट्स ऑफ वाटर में, वो 200 के आसपास रहे. वी वांट दैट कि हमें 200 टीडीएस का वाटर देना है इस स्टेज में इस प्लांट को. तो हम लोग उसी 200 ppm या टू वट एवर टीडीएस हमने जो फाइनलाइज किया है, उसी को हम मेंटेन करेंगे थ्रू आउट द डे इन दैट मेन एनएफटी रिजर्वॉयर. If someone remembers from the previous slides, that we have a NFT reservoir जिसमें से NFT में पानी रोज जा रहा था and it was creating a film of water. Okay, now what happens is that we are maintaining that nutrient level in the water. That is done through this TDS. Now TDS, there's also one more parameter that is called EC, that is electrical conductivity. But for the ease of understanding, let's just assume that there is only one factor here, that is TDS. It will be easier to understand that TDS जो है हम लोग या फिर ppm, parts per million, that is even easier to understand. ये हमारे पास एक parts per million नापने के लिए इंस्ट्रूमेंट है जो हमें बता रहा है कि पर मिलियन पार्ट्स ऑफ वाटर में कितने पार्ट्स फॉरेन मटेरियल यानी कि न्यूट्रिएंट्स हैं. तो वो हम लोग मेजर करते हैं. नाउ एज सून एज द जर्मिनेशन स्टार्ट, जैसे ही प्लांट थोड़ा बड़ा होने लगा है, वी आर स्टार्ट इंक्रीजिंग द टीडीएस ग्रेजुअली फ्रॉम 5th to 20th डे. दिस विल बी इन द स्ट्रिक्ट सुपरविजन ऑफ एन एग्रोनॉमिस्ट. तो वो लोग डिसाइड करेंगे कितना कितना हमें टीडीएस बढ़ाना है, कितना ज्यादा हमें न्यूट्रिएंट देना चालू करना है प्लांट को. नाउ दिस takes us to the transplanting stage. Now from day 20 to 27, obviously this is all typical. It will be different for basil, different for rosemary, different for all types of spinaches. It will vary a little bit, but this is a typical life cycle. So from 20 to 22nd day, for a typical leafy exotic green, this type of crop, they will transplanting it into the main NFT channel or main DWC culture or main to our main system. Okay, where the actual growing happens. Now this growing will on NFT typically it will happen from 20 to 45th day. Now this 45 day is the total life cycle of this crop. Now it is taking 20 days in this oasis cube where it is being watered manually, and for 20 last 25 day of its cycle, it is in the NFT. Okay, now someone is asking, sir, what is TDS? So, what's your name? I think it's okay. Name is not visible. So, TDS is actually, it's very easy to understand. Let me tell you. See, the full form of it is total dissolved solids. Okay. So, total dissolved solids is measured in ppm, as in parts per million. Okay. So, parts per million of water. For example, there is 1 million parts of water, 1 million molecules of water. Let's say very easy to understand, 1 million molecules of water. And if there are 2 million, for every 1 million molecule, there are 200 molecules which are not water. So this is the fraction of that foreign material or nutrients to the water. That is TDS, total dissolved solid. So it's very easy to measure with a simple instrument that is handheld, and within 5 to 10 seconds, we can check the ppm or TDS of any type of water. If someone has a RO in their home, RO or UV filter, and if you do, a lot of people you might have. So I think it's very obvious that you might have seen whenever the person comes to service your RO, he brings a pen-like instrument with him or her, and they check the TDS of water and find out that it has to remain within the drinkable limit, which is around 200 to 50. It's considered the best drinkable water, and up to 400, it's almost drinkable, not very much polluted. Above it, it is considered polluted a little bit. Yeah. So I think that gives you an idea that TDS, if someone has RO in their, home, you will be very easy to understand TDS. So this is a basic idea of how the life cycle of a leafy exotic functions. From day 0 to day around 5th, we definitely see some sort of germination. We start increasing the TDS gradually in the life, the size of the plant according to the size of the plant. And on the 20th day, we will transplant it to the main system. Then we will start with the growing of the NFT, growing in the NFT or DWC culture, whatever system we have, and then we will harvest on the 45th day. This can start on the 45th day also. This can, finished on the 45th day also. This is a, it will depend on the type of plants, but this is a typical cycle. Now, one of the questions of Mr. Manoj was, what are the contents of Oasis cubes? So Oasis is O OASIS cube. Okay, OSS cube. No, it's not OSS cubes. These are OSS cubes. So Oasis cubes, OASIS cubes. Okay. Okay. What are these? What are the contents? There are contents I don't remember actually. Let me check my notes once. Uh, yeah, I don't remember. Yeah, I think this is some kind of foam. It's man-made material. It's not a natural material that I remember. It was some kind of foam. I do not remember the name of that foam. It's pretty much similar to, the kind of sponge that you have at home. It's very similar to that, but lot more crumbly. It can biodegrade after some time. So it has a very good shelf life of at least 1 year in the water. It will not decompose. After that, it will start decomposing. ठीक है? तो ओएसिस क्यूब्स जो हैं वो हमारे एक टाइप का फोम होते हैं, प्रीटी मच सिमिलर टू स्पॉन्जेस जो होते हैं आपके घर में, उस तरीके का एक मटेरियल होता है. सो ओएसिस क्यूब्स पे हम लोग बाद में डिस्कस करेंगे. इट्स अ वेरी अगर उसकी मैं क्या कहते हैं फोम का नाम मुझे याद आता है तो मैं आपको उस टाइम पे बता दूंगा. नाउ कमिंग टू द लाइफ साइकिल ऑफ बेल पेपर्स. सो ऑलरेडी वी डिस्कस दैट हाइड्रोपोनिक्स में मेजर 2 टाइप्स की क्रॉप्स होती हैं. एक जो लीफी ग्रीन्स टाइप की है, थोड़ी स्मॉलर टाइप की क्रॉप्स हैं, और दूसरी एक लार्जर टाइप की क्रॉप्स हैं जिसमें कि बेल पेपर्स, क्यूकम्बर्स, टोमेटोज, इस टाइप की मटेरियल्स आते हैं. Okay, so this is the life cycle of a bell pepper. Now the bell peppers that we are talking about here is, simple bell peppers. It can be colored also, और कलर के हिसाब से थोड़ा और वेरी करता है. Now this is typical of what a bell pepper cycle is, but ये थोड़ा वेरी करेगा जिस कलर का हमें बेल पेपर चाहिए, उस किस टाइप की वैरायटी हमारे पास है उस पे. बट दिस इज टिपिकल. नाउ टिपिकल किस तरीके से है कि जिसका जो सोइंग होगा, अगर D0 पे चालू करते हैं, इट विल टेक 7 to 10 days टू जर्मिनेट. दिस कैन बी डन इन ओएसिस क्यूब ऑल्सो, बट ओएसिस क्यूब बहुत ज्यादा इकोनॉमिकल नहीं पड़ता है कैप्सिकम के केस में. वी यूज अ कोकोपीट मिक्सचर, द कॉयर मिक्सचर दैट वी टॉक्ड अबाउट इन द प्रीवियस स्लाइड्स. yesterday we talk about कोकोनट का हस्क. कोकोनट के हस्क का जो हम लोग बूरा निकालते हैं, उसमें हम उसका एक मिक्सचर बनाते हैं हम वर्मिकुलाइट्स के साथ या परलाइट के साथ. तो उसको हम लोग यूज करते हैं सैपलिंग ग्रो करने के लिए. तो क्लाइव बेल पेपर्स इकोनॉमिकली उसमें ज्यादा बेटर रहते हैं. नाउ जर्मिनेशन में 7 to 10 days लगते हैं. टेक 7 to 10 days टू जर्मिनेट. As soon as we start seeing the saplings, it comes out of the seed, then we will gradually increase the TDS of the water that we are giving to the plants, and we will wait for the 40th day. It's typical 35, 40 to 45 days it can take. And 40th day, ideally, we will start to transplant it. One of the indicators of that it is ready for transplanting, it's that we have 4 to 6 leaves on that stem. On that shoot, we start seeing 4 to 6 leaves. Now, after this, what happens is we start the training and pruning of. Now training is not part of this crop. Pruning is a major part of this crop. So pruning, what pruning is, that we'll be cutting the sides and specific branches of this crop, so we can shape the plant in such a way that it bears the most amount of fruits and has the least amount of weight. So we do not want the you know this crop to get very bulky. We do not want plant to uh, we do not want this plant to actually grow very large. We want it to be in a controlled manner, and we want to increase the amount of fruit that we get from these particular plants. Okay, so then pruning will start happening, and after the first Y forms. So what Y forms are that the branches will start to diverge. So as soon as the branches start diverging, we don't want to want it to get bulky. We do not want too many branches, and it will start taking up a lot of space. So after that, that is our indication that we have to start the pruning process. We'll be cutting the branches, excess branches. So this is what it means by pruning up the first after the first Y forms. Now, after the pruning is done, we will take care of the pest, and we will take care of the plant for next 60 days. After that, we will start the harvesting process. The harvesting process will start at 100th or 120th day. So they will have a solid 2 month period that we will be doing the harvesting for. So in that harvesting period, we will also be doing the pruning. We will also be taking care of the plants. We will do the pest management also. We will do the disease management also. We will take care of everything of the plant. Plus, we will add another layer, that is harvesting process, that will be taking on a daily or 2 or 3 day process, once in a 2 or 3 days, and we will start the harvesting process. Now coming to the question of Miss Neha, she's asking, sir, whether growing medium is used in all stages of crop. Yes, sir, Neha. So the growing media, as I told you in the first germination stage, it will be a different type of growing media, so that caters to the small, size of plant, and it's a very delicate time for the plant. It's a very small. It's starting to grow from the seed, so that seedling stage will use a different type of growing media a lot of the time. For these bell peppers and tomatoes, we can use this similar type of growing media, that is coco coir. But in the previous, I think we discussed, in the leafy exotic, it's different type of media. So for leafy greens, the growing media that is used for in the seedling stage, that is Soilless cube. After that, when it is transferred to the main system, the NFT or DWC, then the growing media is usually clay pebble, the clay pebbles. I think, yeah. And in this case, for the bell peppers, it will be coco coir all along. So this is a typical way. There are some parts of the country where it's more economical to have, coco coir. So they will use. Some people will also use Oasis cube for this initial germination. It will depend on the availability of the growing media also. But yeah, it will be used in all the growing stages. We are not using any soil. That is the whole point of hydroponics. So I think, Neha, this clears up your yeah. Now, next we come to this, the hydroponic nutrients. Okay, so hydroponic nutrients, what this is a special type of nutrients. First of all, these have to be water soluble very easily. So we cannot have, the urea that we use in open field. It comes in granular forms. It's not very easily dissolvable in water. It takes time to dissolve. It takes time to break down. That is not the kind of nutrient solution that we are using in hydroponics. Now, hydroponics, it will be water soluble nutrients all along. Okay. So these water soluble nutrients, this will dissolve in the water as ions. So cations and anions. I think this, if someone has, studying chemistry in their graduation or undergraduation, graduation or post graduation, they might understand this. So they are cations and anions depending on the uh, uh, you know elements or compounds that we are giving the plant. Now, Miss Gayatri is asking, growing medium are crop specific or it is possible to grow all kinds of crop in all medium? No, Miss Gayatri, they are crop specific also, they are region specific also, and the growing media, they are specific to the time of the year also. So depending on all different factors, we will determine before the plantation of the crop, we will, in the first preparation stage, we will identify which growing media we are going to use in the future. Okay, this will be crop specific also. Now coming to this, we have these nutrient recipes. Now I told you this will be water soluble nutrients that we will use in the hydroponic solutions. Okay, but these this does determine the kind of availability we want for the nutrients. These has to be readily available in the form of ions to the plants. But the ratio of these nutrients, which nutrient has to be in what quantity, that is called nutrient recipe. Now, nutrient recipe can have these micronutrient chemicals like potassium nitrate, calcium nitrate. These can be directly mixed in the predetermined ratios to find, make the nutrient recipe for plants. And the micronutrients are also added in such a way that, you know, they're a mixture of iron, manganese, copper, zinc, and boron. I think are a lot of are any of you, students of BSc agriculture or BTech agriculture engineering or something related to agriculture. If any of you have graduation in that, so you might recognize that there are two kinds of nutrients that a plant requires. These are macronutrients and micronutrients. Macro, it requires in larger quantities. The major of the macronutrients being NPK, that is nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. The plant requires it in heavy doses. And the micronutrients, although they are very important for our growth, but they are requiring smaller quantities. So these macro and micronutrients will sometimes, for a lot of plants, we will make separate solutions of macro and micronutrients, and we will add them accordingly, according to the stage of the plant, according to life, what is the life of the plant, what kind of plants we are growing. According to the system that we're using, we will make a particular nutrient recipe made of macronutrients and micronutrients, and we will, this is a whole science in itself. For now, you need to understand there is a nutrient recipe that will have a mixture of all these nutrients in a soluble form, water soluble form, and it will be readily available to plants in an ionic form. So the nutrients will dissolve in water as ions, and they will be readily available for the plants. I think it's clear then how nutrients are given in hydroponic systems. Any uh, any doubt regarding this? You can come to the chat. Now this is what a okay, it's clear. So this is what a typical nutrient solution looks like. Okay. So Miss Anna Ananna Patra, you did not understand. Okay. So let me make this clear for you once again. मैं हिंदी में भी थोड़ा बात करता हूँ. सो हमारे पास एक न्यूट्रिएंट सॉल्यूशन होता है जिसको हम बनाते हैं, जिसमें कि हमारे मैक्रो और माइक्रो दोनों टाइप के न्यूट्रिएंट्स, जो हमें ज्यादा क्वांटिटी में चाहिए वो भी, और जो हमें कम क्वांटिटी में चाहिए वो भी, हम लोग उनको डालते हैं. उसको इस तरीके से बनाते हैं कि वो वाटर सॉल्युबल हो, ताकि वो जो प्लांट्स को इनको रेडिली अवेलेबल फॉर्म में मिले, दैट इज आयोनिक फॉर्म। तो एक आयंस बनाएंगे प्लांट्स, अगर आप केमिस्ट्री थोड़ा पढ़ेंगे तो आपको समझ में आएगा, आयोनिक फॉर्म में प्लांट्स के लिए इजी होता है न्यूट्रिएंट्स को अब्जॉर्ब करना। तो ये जो न्यूट्रिएंट्स हैं इनको एक वाटर सोल्यूबल फॉर्म में, एक आयोनिक फॉर्म में हम लोग बनाते हैं, मतलब इस तरीके से बनाते हैं कि वो इजीली सोल्यूबल हो जाए, अवेलेबल हो। और ये हम लोग इस तरीके से करते हैं जो आपका तरीका आपको आपकी स्क्रीन पे दिख रहा है। सो फॉर एवरी टिपिकल क्रॉप देर विल बी ए सॉल्यूशन, देर विल बी अ बी सॉल्यूशन। ये बहुत सारी रिसर्च के बाद हमने ये फाइनलाइज किया है, हमने नहीं ऑब्वियसली ये साइंटिस्ट ने, कि दे हम लोग अगर ए और पार्ट बी, ए सॉल्यूशन और बी सॉल्यूशन हम लोग बनाए, दो अलग अलग सॉल्यूशंस बनाए जो कि नॉन रिएक्टिंग हो, मतलब अगर हमने पार्ट ए बना रखा है जिस तरीके से, जिसमें कैल्शियम नाइट्रेट और पोटेशियम नाइट्रेट आपस में रिएक्ट नहीं करेंगे, दे आर सेफ अलोंग साइड। ओके, देन देर इज अ पार्ट बी जिसमें कि ये सारे आपस में रिएक्ट नहीं कर रहे हैं, क्योंकि हमें केमिकल्स, वी आर गिविंग इट द केमिकल्स डायरेक्ट टू द प्लांट्स, बट वी आर स्टोरिंग इट इन अ कंटेनर। But all the chemicals, if they are stored in a single container, it is possible that they will react with each other. So we have different parts to grow, depending on the crop, depending on the complexity of the crop, we can have either at least two different solutions. Now, if
What
when
is that
we,
solution? Calcium nitrate, potassium nitrate, iron chelate, potassium nitrate, monopotassium phosphate, magnesium
yes sir,
sulfate, magnesium sulfate, zinc sulfate, borous acid, copper sulfate.
hello, is it is a question that you're asking? Hello, Mr. Gus, I think it was Mr. Who was this? Are you asking a question? Okay, no problem. Yeah. So this is a typical nutrient solution. So these will be, made differently for different types of crops and different types of systems. Okay. So this is what a typical nutrient solutions look like. So for example, it create after creating this solution, what ends up happening is, that it is very easier for people to understand what kind of nutrients are supposed to be given. For example, I tell a worker in the farm that I want X amount of calcium nitrate and X amount of potassium nitrate to be added into the nutrient mixture. It will be very hard for them to remember. If we have a pre-made solution with the particular ratios, we can directly direct them that we need no XML of part A liquid and YML of part B liquid to be added in the nutrient solution. Difference is not that much, Mr. Akshay Karya. So you're asking what is the difference between the part A and part B nutrients. So these are designed in such a way that these are not non-reacting in itself. So if we mix part A and part B for long term in a single bottle, some elements from this might react with some of these elements from this. We do not want this, so we are separating on the order with the order of reactivity, so it's easier for us to store these in a particular mixture. Okay, and secondly, these are also there's also a very what do you call this, what do you call this, there's a rule of thumb that part A, we will make it in such a way that part A and part B, that micro and macronutrients can also be adjusted. If there's a particular time we need to reduce the amount of calcium in that, in the further stages, we can reduce the uh, amount of part A that we are giving, increase the part B. So it's a very this designing of this nutrient solutions, it is a very complex process. There are a lot of factors that are involved. For now, you can understand that for the ease of access, so we can directly tell anyone that from part A you need XML and part B you need YML. So for the ease of understanding, for any general public, you might have a lot of daily wage laborers working in the farm. You can even tell them that from bottle A you need to, give 5 ml, from bottle B you need to give 10 ml. So it's very easier to direct others. That's why the two-part solution, nutrient solution, is considered. That's a very effective solution. Now, coming to the question of Mr. HP, that sir, these can be used in soil draining polyhouses as well. So you need to understand this part A and part B solution. It is also used in, you know uh, simple hydroponic systems only. So they can be used, but it is not very advisable. When we are growing something in soil, what ends up happening is that we do not, we can either, you know, we usually wait for the plant to tell us what kind of deficiency it has. So for example, we are growing, any kind of crop, and we see the newer leaves turning yellow. It might be a zinc deficiency. So after that, we act on it. तो वी डू नॉट नो कि सॉइल में ऑलरेडी कितना वो है, मतलब कौन सी डेफिशिएंसी प्लांट को आ रही है, हमें पहले ही नहीं पता लग जाता. देयर इज अ लिमिट टू कि हम लोग कितना प्रिडिक्ट कर सकते हैं सॉइल. हाइड्रोपोनिक्स में एवरीथिंग इज इन आवर हैंड्स, so it's easier to plan it out using nutrient solutions. But in soil draining polyhouses, we try not to do that, and we can directly add the fertilizer that is required. Now someone asked, yeah, Mr. Vivek is asking, what do we do when we require elements which are present in both part A and part B, because neither contains all nutrients required by the plants? Yeah, we directly add them to the water here. So Vivek, Mr. Vivek, both will be mixed into the water at the same time. It's just for the storage purposes, we do not mix the part A and part B. Storage for the long term. It will be, as soon as it dissolves in the water, it is being utilized by the plants. Yeah. So you don't have to worry about that. So this is what a typical nutrient mixture looks like. Now this is a basic flow chart, basic indicative chart. So this is not something you can use in the long term. Obviously, on the long term you need an agronomist to tell you what is the exact deficiency in plants. But these are very simple things. So if you have older leaves, uh, turning yellow, that then it's a nitrogen deficiency. Newer leaves are turning yellow, it might be a iron deficiency. Then these spots that occur along with the yellowing, this is zinc deficiency. So this is basically a very what do we call it, a basic idea what we when we are teaching someone that this is how the efficiency looks in plants. Now this, uh, if we find in hydroponic systems, which is very rare, but if we do, then we can easily identify this very fast, and we can increase the amount of that particular fertilizer in the part A and part B solutions. Okay, so this is a very basic idea. So this, someone wants, they can take a screenshot from the recording that will give you. Okay, it will be easier by then. Now I think all of you got an idea what about the nutrient solutions and the growing of hydroponic systems. So any doubt from the previous slides? I will move on to the polyhouses and explain to you. Okay, so Mr. Pritam is asking, can we find the nutrient toxicity in the hydroponically grown plants? So you're asking about the nutrient toxicity. So a nutrient toxicity in general does not occur in the hydroponic systems. Okay, everything is very much it is made in such a way that we know what amount of nutrients we are adding in what type of water. This is very rare to happen that we have nutrient toxicity. Although it happens, it is usually because of mismanagement at the site. So maybe someone will misinterpret and add double the dosage of nutrients in the particular liquid. That is something that can happen, and it happens at least once in a year. We get this complaint, someone added double the amount of drops. That then what we do is we dilute the nutrient tank. In a way, we will add more water to it, and we will try to contain the situation. This happens, but it's a very rare thing. Mr. Pritam, so it's clear? Yes. Okay, then Mr. Narendra is asking, so this nutrient applying in growing bag system also? Yes, all kind of hydroponic system will have this. There will be a part A solution and part B solution, and we will be mixing and matching it according to the growth cycle of plant and what point of time it is in the crop cycle, and we will be uh, applying these nutrient solutions in the water, because we are only giving nutrient to the crop through water. There is no soil involved. There's a very neutral growing media in which they are holding the roots, and we are directly applying this nutrient rich water. So this, it will be used in grow bag system also. Mr. Narit, is it clear? A growing bag system is also, grow bag system is also a type of hydroponic system. Okay, so I think I'll move on to the polyhouse systems. Now, hydroponics in itself, it's a very sophisticated system, but it cannot function in open fields, because I mean, there's no point on reducing the waterborne and soil-borne diseases if we cannot control the airborne also. So we need a proper protective structure where we can protect the plants from adverse climatic conditions as well, and like sudden winds and rain and everything. We can protect the structure from that also, and we can also protect this structure from airborne diseases also, airborne pests also. We can reduce that, and we also need to provide a slightly lower temperature inside the polyhouse. Now the thing is, the kind of exotic crops that we grow in hydroponics, these are very expensive crops. For example, the colored capsicums that I think you might have seen in supermarkets, they're mostly grown in hydroponics and protected cultivation systems. These are polyhouse systems, because these are slightly expensive because they require slightly lower temperature than usual to grow. Secondly, it requires a very controlled environment where we can control the humidity and temperature to a certain extent. We can lower it or increase it also. Now for this, we have a polyhouse. Polyhouse is nothing but, you must have understood, must have read about the uh, greenhouses, the greenhouse effect. You must have heard about. So Miss Neha, your question is about nutrient solutions. We will come back to this on the end of the class. It will distract a little bit. Please keep this in mind, copy it, or you can ask this again in the end of the. Okay. Mr. HP is asking, can we increase the humidity in the polyhouse? Yes, we can. I'm coming to that only. So what happens is, in polyhouses, that this is nothing but a greenhouse. The greenhouse you must have heard about in the in I think standard fifth is when it is introduced in the textbooks. So this greenhouse, what it is, it's a glass house where the heat traps. So polyhouse is very similar to that. Greenhouses are used in foreign, the countries which have very low temperature. For example, we are talking about very north in Russia, in Ukraine. You must have seen a lot of food comes from greenhouses. So these are built of glass, and they are used to keep the inside temperature warm. But we do not have that compulsion here in India. So it's an Indianized version of greenhouse, polyhouse, or not exactly Indianized. It's used in a lot of warmer countries as well. But in India, for the cost effectiveness also, for our ability to control it also, and easier to build also, so we end up using polyhouses. So these polyhouses have a very simple task of giving us a very controlled environment by isolating it from the outside environment. Okay, so they can be built from polysheet glass, and anything that permits the natural light entry. Okay, so we are using polysheets, which are easier to find, and it's very easier to build in India. Okay, so we have very limited number of glass polyhouses that are greenhouses in India. They exist, but they are very rare. Okay, now coming to the site selection, how do we determine that what kind of polyhouse we are going to build, and if we are going to build a polyhouse? Now polyhouse itself is a uh, you know protected cultivation. So there is no point of it being a protected cultivation if we do not have a good supply of water. Okay. Now the water that is required inside the poly house, okay, when we are investing in so much to actually control something inside the poly house, so we need to be able to control the quality of water also. Okay, where if we are using a poly house, we're definitely going to use a drip irrigation system or some kind of system that will be used to, so we can use less amount of water, and we need good quality water there. Now, this is one of the important things, that we need a continuous supply of quality water. Now, irrigation water should have a pH of 5.5 to 7.0, and electrical conductivity is 0.1 to zero point 0.3. Now, the thing is that as far as TDS is concerned, or the parts per million is concerned, or the pollution in the water is concerned, we can do filtration, but increasing the pH by adding something, and increasing the decreasing the EC, these are these are very costly things. So if we want to treat the water, it is only economical to a certain extent. After that, it is not advisable that we throw in a lot of money to you know you know filter the water. हम एक लिमिट तक ही उसमें इतना पैसा डालेंगे कि हमारे लिए वो फीजिबल भी रहे. पॉली हाउस को हमें फीजिबल भी रखना है, इसलिए हम लोग चेक करते हैं कि जो वाटर हमारे पास अवेलेबल है साइट पे, इट हैज टू हैव अ कंटिन्यूअस सप्लाई, एंड इट इज नॉट वेरी मच पोल्यूटेड. इट हैज टू बी विद इन अ सर्टेन रेंज, जहाँ पे हम उसको लाइट फिल्ट्रेशन के साथ यूज कर सकते. नाउ वी नीड reliable electrical supply. Either we will have a generator or inverter there in case light बहुत जाती रहती है, there is a problem with electricity. Otherwise, we will try to do it in such a way that we have a constant, usually a three-phase electricity, very good quality electricity in on the site itself, because we will have a lot of electrical components in the polyhouse. I will talk about them in coming slides. Then we need to have a proper ground slope for drainage to manage surface water. So we do not want any kind of flooding to happen in the polyhouse. The whole point of building a polyhouse is कि हम लोग उसको climatic problem से बचा रहे हैं. If there is a flood and it reaches inside the polyhouse, it's not very advisable. So we will try to build it in an area that is slightly above the ground, and it has a very good slope, so the water can drain out easily. So even during the heavy rains, we do not have a water logging problem inside the polyhouse. We do not want mosquitoes. We do not want unnecessary insects to come inside the polyhouse or breed inside the polyhouse. And Ravina, what is the unit used here for EC? So electrical conductivity was Mr. Vivek. Yeah. So electrical conductivity, it's actually the unit here is, it's the spelling is wrong. It is actually Siemens per meter. So it was supposed to be S/M. I think it was a clerical error. So let me correct this. It's supposed to be
मिस्टर अक्षय.
yes, Chandan.
हाँ
Hello.
हाँ मैं जरा ये इसी क्लियर कर देता हूँ.
हाँ जी.
इसी मेजरमेंट का एक जैसे टीडीएस यूज करते हैं, टीडीएस टोटल डिजॉल्व सॉलिड,
Yes.
ऐसे इलेक्ट्रिकल कंडक्टिविटी चेक करते हैं, जिसका यूनिट अपना मिली साइमन्स पर सेंटीमीटर या माइक्रो साइमन्स पर सेंटीमीटर में होता है.
Yes.
तो इस तरीके से हम वही यूनिट मिली साइमन्स या माइक्रो साइमन्स 1000 इज हेलो.
Hello. Yeah.
हाँ, नेटवर्क चली गई थी. तो
Okay.
एक बार न्यूट्रेंट जब हम समराइज करेंगे तो वहाँ पे हम डिस्कस कर लेंगे. आप कंटिन्यू करिए.
Okay. So EC is it is measured in electrical conductivity is measured in microsiemens per meter or millisiemens per meter. Sorry. So let us move on. right now. तो उसके बाद हम लोग बात कर रहे थे कि हमें किस तरीके से सरफेस वाटर को हम लोग को ड्रेन आउट करना बहुत जरूरी है. सो वी नीड अ गुड स्लोप आल्सो, एंड वी नीड दी प्रॉपर ग्राउंड टू बी ऑन एन एलिवेटेड लेवल. बहुत ही लो ग्राउंड हम लोग को नहीं चाहिए. So then it should be away from buildings and trees to ensure that there is an unobstructed sunlight and pollution-free environment. Now, this is a given for any kind of agriculture activity. So कुछ इसमें चीजें हैं जो हम लोग किसी भी टाइप की एग्रीकल्चर एक्टिविटी के लिए हम लोग ध्यान में रखते हैं. दैट वन ऑफ देम इज दैट इट शुड बी अवे फ्रॉम बिल्डिंग्स. So there's a particular lands categorized by the Indian government that are classified as agricultural lands. So these are, little farther away from the cities, and these are ideally suited for any kind of agriculture activity. So polyhouse will also be built on those kinds of lands, from government mandate also, and from practical point of view also, that we need a very good location which is free from these harsh environments, and this is free from it's a little farther away from the cities. Then proximity to good road transport for market access is very important, and this is also very given for any kind of agriculture activity. We need to be able to procure raw materials, and we need to be able to ship our final produced goods to markets. So we need a good market connectivity. हमें मार्केट से सामान लाना भी पड़ता है, रॉ मटेरियल्स भी लाने पड़ते हैं, फर्टिलाइजर्स वगैरह के लिए हमें जाना भी पड़ता है, एंड वी नीड टू बी एबल टू शिप आवर गुड्स टू द मार्केट. हमें अपने फाइनल प्रोड्यूस को, फाइनल वेजिटेबल्स या फ्रूट्स को वापस वेजिटेबल मार्केट तक भी लेके जाना है. तो इसके लिए हम लोग एक बहुत ही अच्छा रोड ट्रांसपोर्ट एक्सेसिबल लैंड हम लोग ढूंढते हैं. ओके. Now, easy availability of affordable labor is very essential. Now, we do not want to be so close to the city that we have to hire very expensive labor. We need to be in the villages, in the outskirts of the city, where we can find the affordable, which is actually very easily available also, because during this time of harvest, during the time of transplantation, we need a lot of labor. Labor requirement थोड़ा बढ़ जाती है. So if we have a good, hydroponics or any kind of poly house, we do one thing we always required is we need to find a good labor whom we can train easily also. So one of you has mic on. I request you please mute it. Okay. So then coming to the last, the communication facilities should be available on the site. Now we need good mobile connectivity. Okay. So one thing about hydroponics is, or any kind of precision farming, is that we need to have a very good access to a very good agronomist, or someone who has experience in running the farms. So for that we need a very good connectivity. So on an average, in a day, you will have at least 1 to 2 calls with a very good agronomist or some project manager to actually be able to run your farm very efficiently, at least during the first few years. So you need to be able to easily be able to connect to experienced professionals in order to understand what is going on in the farm. These poly houses are very complex to manage. It's not very hard to learn how to manage a poly house, but these are complex machineries in themselves, which we will learn in the further slides. Now, this is a very typical type of poly house, which is called a naturally ventilated poly house. Now, you see this vent. Now, coming to this, now let me find a picture for you for the naturally ventilated poly house. Now, this will be very easier if I do that. So, would you mind waiting 10 seconds? I'll find a poly house picture for you. Now, I found a simple image for you of a poly house. Now, let me share this part of the screen with you. One second. I think my network just jammed. Am I audible to everyone? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, am I audible? Okay. Okay, so my network's just jammed a little bit. Now, I think this will be easier for me to, explain. Okay, so this is what a polyhouse looks like. Okay, I think it is visible. Now, this is a view of polyhouse. Okay, this is the first image that I can find on net. So it's very easy for you to, see. Now, do you see this part? This long strip that is running? This is a ventilation unit. Sorry, ventilation duct. No, not exactly a duct, but yeah, this is a part where the ventilation will happen. Hot air will rise up and exit from this netted part here. Okay, and you see the sides. These sides are rollable curtains, which you can open up, so the cold air can run from in from here. So the cold air will run from in here, and the hot air will rise up and get out of these, heighted ventilation ducts. So this is what we call a naturally ventilated polyhouse. We are using a natural ventilation to make sure that the insides of a polyhouse can remain cool at all times. So you must have heard about the greenhouse effect, how the light traps inside a glass or plastic structure, and it heats up in the insides of a greenhouse. This is called greenhouse effect. The carbon dioxide and other gases also do the same with the earth. They will trap the heat, trap the light, and this will create higher temperatures. The similar thing happens with a greenhouse or a polyhouse. But to combat that, we have a naturally ventilating system. The hot air always rises up and gets out of these ventilation ducts, and the cold air will run in from sides of these polyhouses. Now this, let me jump back to this. Now this is what a side of the polyhouse looks like. This white area that you see, these are rollable curtain. So whenever we want the temperature inside a polyhouse to drop, we will roll the curtain up. The cold air will come in from this side, and this duct here, this will help in removing the hot air. So this is how a naturally ventilated polyhouse system works. This is a simple way. This are naturally ventilated polyhouses. Now, what if we think this natural ventilation is a little bit slow? Okay, this is a question that you must have in your mind, that this natural ventilation will happen very slowly. The heat will rise, hot air will rise up, and then the cold air will come in. What if it's not very windy all the time? Then there's a possibility that it will be very slow. So if we want to drop the temperature even more, what we do is we build a fan and pad system. This system is very similar to the polyhouse, a naturally ventilated polyhouse. But this fan pad, what will have, it will have two different components. This is an exhaust fan, and these that you see, the brown things, these are cooling pads. So how many of you have coolers at your home? Just give me a hand. So do you have coolers at home? The water coolers that you use in the summers. A lot of you might have AC, but I think a lot of you, I think, grew up in the early 2000s. You must have seen a cooler or water cooler. They are still used today. Are you getting what I'm asking you about? Okay. So the coolers have a similar system. You see these brown papers like cooling pads. These are present in coolers also. So these coolers, these cooling pads, these have a constant flow of water in them. So there's a small, very slow flow of water in these cooling pads. These cooling pads will always be wet. Think of it like wet paper. आपके पास एक गीला पेपर है, वो कॉन्स्टेंटली उसमें पानी गिरता जा रहा है, वो हमेशा ही गीला है. So these are like cooling pads. Now, one end of the polyhouse will have these cooling pads, the other will have these large exhaust fans. तो आपका जो पूरा polyhouse है, it's covered, built in such a way that in from one end, the exhaust will suck the air out from the polyhouse. So the air will have to come from these cooling pads, through these cooling pads which are already wet. अभी गीले cooling pad से आप हवा को force कर रहे हो अंदर आने के लिए, what it will do is it will bring in droplets of water and it will cool you down. आप ने देखा है, आपका अगर कूलर हो आपके पास तो आपको आइडिया होगा कि कूलर में छोटी छोटी ड्रॉपलेट्स आती है पानी की हवा के साथ में, और वो हमें कूल करती है. वो इनका एक कूलिंग इफेक्ट होता है, वो टेम्परेचर थोड़ा लो कर देती है. So this is a similar concept of a fan and pad type of polyhouse. This exhaust fan will suck the air out of polyhouse, and this on the other end there will be a cooling pad, and it will force the water, air to come through a cooling pad which is already wet with water, and the water droplets will come along with the air and it will cool down the temperature inside the polyhouse. Now, these are the major two types of polyhouses, the naturally ventilated and fan and pad. These are the most commonly used polyhouses in India. Okay. Now, inside these polyhouses, you can see here, this is an NFT channel. This is how NFT looks like. I think NFT everyone remembers. These are used for small crops like these green vegetables. You can see this Lucarno here. You can see this, I think this is Lolo. This is romaine lettuce, I think. But these all kinds of crops are being grown in these are very similar in the nutrient profile. They have a nutrient solution mixed with water running inside these channels. So this is what it looks like in the in close up. These are NFT channels. These are made from food grade UPVC plastic. So UPVC is ultraviolet treated polyvinyl chloride. These are UPVC are these are ultraviolet resistant. These are plastics that are actually very good in water. So if you have plastic pipes at home, you will realize that after some time they start degrading, and they will have this plastic components that will start mixing with water and create microplastic. This is a type of pollution, so it pollutes the water. But UPVC, it is completely food grade. For at least 10 years, the plastic will not seep into the water. It's a very special type of material that we use, that is food grade. This food grade plastic will have the capability to run NFT system for years. Now, these are some of the equipments that we will walk through, so you get the picture of what inside a polyhouse looks like. Now, these are micro inlet tubes. So remember, in the NFT system, we had a reservoir. From one end, through a pipe, we were putting in a little bit of water. From the next end, it will drain out. So it will create a film of water. That is nutrient film technique. So yeah, bear with me. If you remember this, please type a yes. Okay. So coming to this, yeah, so you remember, so these pipes are putting in constant flow of water. This, you can see the water flow is not very sharp, no, not very hard. So it's a very mellow flow of water that is happening from one end. The water will go out from the other end and will create a film of water, nutrient rich water. Now this is the germination trays. Okay, these germination trays, these are this is the standard size of germination tray, that is 24 centimeter by 24 centimeter by 2 centimeter. Okay, now these germination trays, how they function is that these trays will have oasis cubes in them. We will put in the oasis cubes, and in oasis cubes we will put in some seeds. Now these seeds, as soon as they start germination, you see these are almost ready for transplantation. So up to this stage, this is almost a 20-day period, we will keep these in these trays. After that, they will be transplanted into the NFT. Now in this stage, the watering will be done through simple, you remember the gardening can you might have at home. You know the Ramu Kaka one that I think a lot of cereals had growing up. So there will be a Ramu Kaka with a watering can in his hand, watering all the plants. So that kind of can is always used in the germination trays. Okay, so then this is how it looks. This is perlite and this is leca balls, these clay balls. This is perlite and this is leca balls. These perlite is often mixed with cocoa peat to make a fill inside the grow bags here, or these leca balls can directly be used in the net pots. These are all mixes and matches. This is how these look, but these can be mixed and matched for all type of systems, all types of crops. So they are net pots which will have, you see here, this is a mixture of cocoa peat or something. I think cocoa peat and perlite mixture that is in the net pot. For leafy vegetables, which you saw here, this one usually has a in India we use directly these leca balls inside the net pots. These This is what a grow bag looks like. You know the cucumber plants are you can see these are growing. I think this is a cucumber. It's already ripe. So this is how the cucumber plants will look in a grow bag. These are grow bags that are filled with your growing media, that is cocoa coir or cocoa peat, that is mixed with perlite for some aeration, and these are ready. And these grow bags are being used to grow these larger plants. Now, someone asked me that what was the question, that will increase the humidity in polyhouse. So Chandan sir already replied, yes, we can use with the help of fogger. Now, controlling the environment inside a polyhouse, that's very important. So that is the sole purpose of creating a polyhouse. Now these are there are actually more ways we can do this, but this are the more uh, you know most effective ways that we can lower the temperature and increase the humidity. So for humidity we are using these two. Now this is a misting fogger. So it has a very high pressure pipes, high pressure water pipes. So in the pipes, the water is flowing at a very high speed and very high pressure. When it comes to this part, what ends up as this, uh, these are very small openings. So when the water with very much force comes out of this, they come in very small droplets. It's almost like you will see a fog. That's why these are called fogs. So the water droplets will not directly come down into the soil or inside the polyhouse. They will not drop down directly. They will stay in the air and increase the humidity. So these are very small droplets. They will almost evaporate in the area. It will decrease the temperature also because they are already evaporating, and they will increase the humidity also because they will become a part of the air inside there. So these are placed on the top of the polyhouses, and inside the polyhouses on the top, and they will create a mist, a fog when they are turned on. This is a way of increasing the humidity and reducing the temperature. Now this is an air circulation fan. So sometimes what happens in polyhouses is that you will see that humidity and temperature on one end can be different from humidity and temperature on other end. It can be due to various reasons. Man. The foggers, for example, they are placed in such a way that they are producing more fog from on one area and less fog on the other, because they are placed like 3-4 meters apart at least. Okay, so the foggers are placed at least 3 to 4 meters apart, and the previous ways that we are doing this, uh, previous control methods like this naturally ventilate polyhouse, these ventilation ducts are at least 8 meters apart. Now these this fan and pad distance can be up to 20 meters. It's very hard to maintain a uniform temperature across the polyhouse. That is where the air circulation fans come in. They will be on the top of the polyhouse, like I think this is visible here. So this is the place where the air circulation fan will be placed. I think it's not visible, but just for this context, this space and this space will have two air circulation fans. So they will place in such a way that they can push the air from here to the front of the polyhouse, from here of the polyhouse, back of the polyhouse to the front of the polyhouse. So they will be used to maintain a constant temperature in whole polyhouse inside. So is it clear what these two what we are doing with these two, the misting foggers and the air circulation fans? So these are two major ways this is used to increase humidity and decrease the temperature, and this is used to maintain that humidity and temperature across the polyhouse. I hope this is clear. Okay. So any question up to this? Then we will move ahead. Okay. Okay. So we'll move ahead. Now comes to the measuring part. Now, as I told you that we need to measure the EC, TDS, ppm, pH, and everything has to be measured very accurately inside the polyhouse and hydroponic systems, and we have to make it in such a way that we are able to constantly monitor all of these things in order to provide the adequate environment for our crops. Now this here is a pH meter. You directly dunk this part. This is a cap. You remove the cap. You directly place the probe inside the water, and it can tell you the pH of that water. pH is how acidic or how basic that water is. I think everyone has studies in the 9th or 10th standard. This is a simple thing. The pH of a water determines how acidic or how basic that is. So anything less than 7 will be acidic, and anything higher than that will be slightly basic. Now, this pH of the water is used using the pH pen. Now, this is a TDS or ppm or EC pen. Now, TDS, ppm, and EC are very similar in terms that they measure how much nutrient is there in the water or how much foreign material is there in the water. So, in this context, this will tell us the TDS of ppm or EC of the water. Okay, these terms, although they are used interchangeably, but these have pretty much the same meaning. They have different units, but they have the same meaning. So this TDS pen, this will tell us the total dissolved solids, and the unit of it will be ppm, this parts per million. Okay. Then we have this hygrometer that will be placed inside the polyhouse. It will tell us the current temperature and humidity. This 20 degrees Celsius, and it's 58% relative humidity. Okay. Now coming to this, we have something called a weed mat. So we do not want any soil-based diseases, soil-borne pests to come inside the polyhouse. So best way to do it is that we cover the whole inside of the polyhouse soil with something that is called a weed mat. Now this mat is usually black or white in color. So what it will do is it will not allow any light to penetrate inside the soil. So there is no light going, there will be no weeds. The whole weed problem is eliminated in one go. There will be almost no soil-borne disease because there is no soil is not in contact with the grow bags at all. Now, apart from this, we have something called a curtain roller. So they were curtains. Whenever we need to increase the temperature inside the polyhouse, we'll close it. We need to decrease the temperature inside. We can open it, and the cold air can rush in from the outside, and hot air can rise up from the inside of the polyhouse. Now, Mr. Manoj is asking color of the weed mat. Now, color can be black and white. Black is preferred by a lot of agronomists, but white also comes in. It also comes in white color. It is often, white looks a lot dirtier. That is the major difference. But white and black also work fine. Both work fine. So the whole point is that we don't want. It's a very thick mat, so color rarely matters, but black is preferred because it's easier to clean. Okay. Yeah. So these curtain rollers, I think it's clear that is they are used for ventilation. Now, these are irrigation systems. These rose can, that handheld can, this is used for watering when the plants are in germination stage. Like this. In this stage, the only way we can give water to the plant is through this rose can. We need one of these in our spaces always. We always require these in our inside our, what do you call this? We need these are in our polyhouses. Then we have something that we call a drip irrigation system. Now this is a arrow dripper. Now this is a special type of drip irrigation system that is designed for hydroponic systems. Now what happens in hydroponics is that is a little bit technical. I'm going a little bit technical. What ends up happening is that if we give water to a particular space, okay, we are constantly giving water in a particular space in sand. After some time, what it will do, it will create a hole. I think you will understand this. अगर आपने कभी प्लांट्स को पानी दिया है एंड आपके घर में गमले हैं या फिर लॉन है, इफ यू pour a pipe, use a pipe और आप पाइप से उसमें पानी डाल रहे हो, एक ही जगह पे आप उसको लगा के रखो, आफ्टर सम टाइम द वाटर विल डिस्प्लेस द सॉइल अराउंड इट और वो एक होल क्रिएट करने लगेगा. इट्स अ वेरी सिंपल कॉन्सेप्ट, राइट? इट विल, इफ यू लीव अ पाइप लाइंग अराउंड at a particular place in sand, it will create a hole, it will create a space. So what ends up happening is if we put a dripper inside inside the soil, the soil is very hard. It becomes relatively harder the down we go, but that is not the case with the growing media cocoa peat. Cocoa peat is very soft and fibrous. Now what it will do is if we use simple drip irrigation system, the water constantly flowing water, what it will do, drop by drop it will create a space, and all the water will start flowing down. It will not be absorbed by cocoa peat, it will not be absorbed by root. Whatever we water we do, it will directly go down, and it will be a very big hassle for us to place that dripper in different positions every day. So this is a special type of dripper. What it does, it makes the flow of water very slow. It is called arrow dripper. So I will not go into the technicalities, but this is simple to understand that this decreases the flow of water, speed of water. So it slowly, drop by drop, it goes into the cocoa peat. So in that way, it is very easier for plants to absorb it. Now, this is a special type of drip irrigation system designed for hydroponic systems. This is called arrow dripper. Drip pipe and drop arrow are also few of the names. Now coming to another few other equipments that are used inside. The thing that you see on top, these are aluminum shade nets. Now shade nets, there are a lot of times then when the light of sun are very harsh and a single plastic on the top of polyhouse not enough to tackle that harsh light. Now as we know, a lot of these vegetables that we are growing inside the polyhouse, these are exotic varieties. Now exotic varieties, foreign varieties, like foreign people are not very tolerant to Indian sun. इंडिया में धूप थोड़ी ज्यादा रहती है, ज्यादा तेज पड़ती है. Now these plants are not very accustomed to that. What we do is we usually have a shade net. So these nets are retractable. You see, these are fully open, these are half open. We can make it in such a way that it can be closed like this. So we can we can close it like this also. These nets are rollable and this can cover the whole area, and they can be closed like this also. So we can allow all the sunlight in also. These are controllable. So what ends up happening is that these shade nets will control the amount of light that is going inside the polyhouse. So see, we have controlled the water also, we have controlled the air also, the sun, the soil also, and we have reduced the problems created by harsh sunlight also. So there's a lot of layers that we have controlled inside the polyhouse structure. So the hydroponics, that is why hydroponics is such a controlled environment agriculture. Now, I think I talked about the air circulation fans also. You can see it's more visible here. So these will be spaced like this, that the temperature and humidity on this end of the polyhouse will be very, very similar to what it is on this end. You can see the air circulation fans are also visible here. Okay. Now, coming to this, I think, yeah. So these J hooks, there are two types of hooks. These are J and H hooks. You see, there are a lot of plants. These are, you see, these long plants that need space to hang. These are climbers. Have you seen a climber plant? You must have seen cucumber plants or tomato plants. These are called vines. If someone is a student of agriculture or has done agriculture, आपको पता हो कुछ plants होते हैं जो कि क्लाइम करना पसंद करते हैं. उनके लिए साइड से लकड़ियां लगाई जाती हैं सपोर्ट के लिए, या फिर किसी तरह की रस्सियां बांधी जाती हैं. नाउ इनसाइड अ पॉली हाउस हम लोग को ना ऑर्गेनिक मैटर थोड़ा कम करना होता है. वी नीड टू रिड्यूस द ऑर्गेनिक मैटर दैट वी ब्रिंग इनसाइड, because if we bring sticks, they can start to decompose, they can create diseases. So we use these plastic H hooks or J hooks, which are tied to these white, you can see the white ropes, these trellising ropes, and we created trellis for these plants to climb on. These have a very good shelf life. You can use them for up to 5-6 years easily, and these are very solid also. So these are trellising systems that we create inside. So trellising vine polyester and these H hooks, these create a system where the climbers can easily climb and they can reach their full height and they can bear us very good amount of. So you can also already see the health of these plants is phenomenal. So in open field, you will not find these many flowers on a single plant of cucumber. So this is a very obvious thing. It's very obvious when you look at the plants grown in a hydroponic system, because everything is controlled, every nutrition is given. There rarely is a deficiency, and it's very visible that these are healthier plants. Now, moving on. I think someone asked me yesterday that is it possible that we can have pests coming in inside the poly house also? Yes. So pests do make it inside. It's not like they will not make inside, because there are human errors. There will be holes in polyhouse from time to time. Some mishappening happens. The gate remains open for a lot longer. These pests and insects can easily come inside. It's a very common thing. That's why we have sticky traps. We have multiple layers of preventing every other disease or every other deficiency. So we are trying to reduce the margin of error as much as possible. This is what I'm saying from day one. We are trying to reduce the margin of error. So even if there's some insects that come inside, you can see we have a sticky trap. Now you can see it's not as clustered as it would have been in the open field. Open field में अगर आपने किसी ने sticky trap देखे हैं तो वो कुछ 10-12 दिन में बिल्कुल काले हो जाते हैं. There are lot of insects. Open field में obviously you have a lot of insects, but inside you can see easily count the number of insects there, and you can easily see that insects यहाँ पे बहुत ज़्यादा नहीं है. So this is again another layer of protection that we are giving to the plants. It's another layer that actually adds one more, it's another layer of protection. So sticky traps are also used inside the polyhouse. Is it clear? Now coming to the seedling trays. Now these seedling trays. Now I think we already talked about the Oasis cubes. I think this was in a couple of slides earlier. I told you how these germination trays look like in the Oasis cubes. Now for some plants, this is a ideal option, because their germination is at max, it will be 20-25 days of germination. That is it. After that, they will be transplanted. Now, there are some plants like cucumber and capsicum and tomatoes. They have a longer life cycle. So they will have at least almost 40-45 days that they will remain in the seedling trays. And after that, they will be transplanted. They cannot be grown inside a Oasis cube. It's not very economical, and Oasis cube will start degrading after some time. So it's not ideal. So it's better to have a cocoa peat mixture that is filled inside the seedling trays, and they are raised. These seeds will be raised in a seedling tray. This you will see in most of the cocoa peat based plants like capsicum and cucumbers and tomatoes, and I think almost all kinds of peppers, any kind of crop that is larger in nature. So they will be grown inside a seedling tray. Now, there are some alternate growing systems. These are alternate. I think for NFT system, I showed you a lot of alternatives. The DWC, the deep water culture, then there were flowing floating tray. So these are for small plants. For larger plants, there is something that we call grow slabs and open troughs. So this is something that we did not talk about for alternate growing media for large plants. So these are two alternates for larger plants. One is called growing slab. These grow slabs are nothing but pre-made grow bags. ग्रो बैग्स आप लोग ग्रो बैग्स खोलेंगे, उसमें कोकोपीट डालेंगे एंड यू विल मेक अ न्यू ग्रो बैग एवरी टाइम. बट ये ऑलरेडी प्री मेड आता है, ये ऑलरेडी इसमें परलाइट वगैरह मिक्स है, प्रॉपरली एरेटेड है, डिहाइड्रेट होके आएगा, इसमें पानी डालेंगे, इट विल राइज अप, इट विल रेडी टू यूज. It's a ready to use version of a grow bag. And these open troughs eliminate the problem of having to fill individual grow bags. It's a large grow bag, plastic grow bag. It's a singular large plastic grow bag. एक लंबा सा grow bag आप इसको समझिए. It's very easy to understand. It's just a large grow bag. It's nothing else. It's made of plastic, but the only problem is here you can see these are not isolated. So if any disease happens in this end, it will slowly propagate to this end. Wherein grow bags and grow slabs, we have this ability to, if we see any kind of disease or something like this here, we can just eliminate this slab. So these are lesser used systems, but they're equally effective. I mean, depending on what kind of system, what region we have, how much expertise the person that is growing have, we can use these systems also. Now, let us move to the primary benefits of hydroponics cultivation. I think this will summarize this today's session. Okay, this today's session will be summarized by this, and we will in the end we will have a almost 15-20 minutes of discussion now. Okay, now there are two chief merits of the soilless cultivation. Now the first one is that hydroponics has potential to produce much higher yield crops. Now I think everything that I've taught has been in the direction that how control the environments are, how much care that is being put into every particular plant inside, that this results in at least 50 to 60% more yield than traditional open field farming. The hydroponic systems will have lesser growing time also. They will grow to the full length of full they complete their crop cycle in lesser time also, and they will have greater yield also, and they will have better health also. So this is one of the major merits. And secondly, hydroponics can be used in places where in-ground agriculture or gardening is not possible. Now, I think you don't understand why we have used these two different terms, that is in-ground agriculture and gardening. Now, as far as the in-ground agriculture is concerned, as far as agriculture in a broader term is concerned, हम लोग जब एग्रीकल्चर की बात कर रहे हैं तो हाइड्रोपोनिक्स उन प्लेसेस में भी यूज होता है जहां पे एग्रीकल्चर इज अ बिग पार्ट, big thing, but it is not being able to we are not getting the same amount of feed because of various problems. For example, I think you go to any North Asian or North European country जहाँ पे बर्फ बहुत पड़ती है, ऐसी जगह पे सॉइल में आपके लिए कुछ भी कर पाना बहुत मुश्किल होता है. एक तो ठंड है, ऊपर से सॉइल भी जम जाती है, उसके अंदर का मॉइस्चर जम जाता है, वहां पे सॉइल बहुत ज्यादा डिग्रेडेड है, मतलब वहां पे हमें पेट्रोलियम वगैरह मिलता है. इट्स अ वेरी ओल्ड लैंड, और ओल्ड लैंड इस तरीके से वहां पे जो भी ऑर्गेनिक मटेरियल है बहुत ज्यादा रेडिली अवेलेबल फॉर्म में नहीं है प्लांट्स के. इट्स नॉट एन आइडियल स्पेस जहाँ पे हम प्लांट्स उगा सकें. इन सच प्लेसेस हाइड्रोपोनिक्स इज द ओनली ऑप्शन एंड इट इज द बेस्ट ऑप्शन, क्योंकि हम लोग स्मॉलर अमाउंट ऑफ लैंड में ज्यादा प्रोड्यूस भी उगा पा रहे हैं, और हम लोग इजीली भी उगा पा रहे हैं, दिस कंट्रोल एनवायरनमेंट में उगा पा रहे हैं. तो हमारे पास ओपन फील्ड के मुकाबले चैलेंजेस भी बहुत कम हो जाते हैं. Secondly, we are talking about gardening also. Now, a lot of problems that urbanization has created. One of the biggest problem is that हम लोग urban areas में it's not possible to build a garden. अपने लिए धनिया पुदीना उगाना, I think it's a very childish dream, but it's a very practical dream for a lot of Indians, especially those are living in urban areas. they need to be able to grow their own herbs and leafy vegetables in their homes. So a lot of people will use pots and everything, but it's not very effective. But hydroponics is the best option for them because it do not require a space. I think a lot of you might, if you actually signed up for the hydroponics webinar, you must have gone through some Instagram posts or some YouTube posts of people using hydroponics in their homes. I think this is a very common scenario. So this is another thing, that gardening is a very easily accessible and easily possible through hydroponics. So I think these are two major merits, that we have this higher crop yields for farmers. From commercial point of view, it's very good. And secondly, it is a very good option for people who cannot do agriculture and people who want to do agriculture in urban areas. आई थिंक इसको मैं हिंदी में भी बोलता हूँ कि हमारे पास दो मेजर मेरिट्स हैं यहाँ पे, दो मेजर एडवांटेजेस हैं जो हमें समराइज कर सकते हैं जिसमें हम हाइड्रोपोनिक्स हो, कि एक तो उसमें बेटर यील्ड्स है, हमारे पास ज्यादा हमको प्रोड्यूस मिल रहा है, अच्छी क्वालिटी का मिल रहा है, और ये उनके लिए बहुत जरूरी है जो कमर्शियल पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से फार्मिंग को देख रहे हैं। वो फार्मर भी हो सकते हैं, वो इंडस्ट्रियलिस्ट भी हो सकते हैं जिनको बेटर पैसे कमाने हैं, बेटर यील्ड्स चाहिए, उनके लिए बेटर आरओआई ऑप्शन चाहिए, उनके लिए भी हाइड्रोपोनिक्स बहुत अच्छा ऑप्शन है, क्योंकि इसमें अच्छी हमको प्रोड्यूस मिलती है, क्वांटिटी वाइज भी क्वालिटी वाइज भी। दूसरा, हाइड्रोपोनिक्स बहुत अच्छा ऑप्शन है जो एग्रीकल्चर नहीं कर पाते हैं। वो कंट्रीज हो सकती हैं, वो प्रॉब्लम एग्रीकल्चर मतलब लैंड ना होना प्रॉब्लम हो सकती है, या फिर आप अर्बन एरिया में रहते हैं, आप गार्डनिंग करना चाहते हैं, उसके लिए भी बहुत अच्छा ऑप्शन हो सकता है। सो इट इज वन ऑफ द बेस्ट ऑप्शन दैट वी हैव नाउ. Looking at this flowchart, I think it's very easy to understand that these are five different, 5 pillars of any kind of agriculture. ठीक है, land, labor, disease and pest, water and nutrition. Now as far as land is concerned, कि हमारा बेटर कंट्रोल है एनवायरनमेंट पे, यील्ड्स को प्रिडिक्ट करना, बजट करना बहुत इजी हो जाता है, क्योंकि हमें जो एनवायरनमेंट और लैंड है बहुत कंट्रोल में है। लैंड हमें बहुत कम चाहिए और उतने लैंड को हम इजीली कंट्रोल कर सकते हैं, वहां पे एनवायरनमेंट को कंट्रोल कर सकते हैं, पॉलीहाउस के अंदर टेम्परेचर, ह्यूमिडिटी, एवरीथिंग कैन बी कंट्रोल्ड. तो लैंड is taken care of in the hydroponics because we need small amount of little amount of land, and we have more control over that piece of land and that that environment inside in the land. Then as far as labor is concerned, reduced labor time for digging and weeding. So digging and weeding is especially is one of the mammoth tasks that any farm have. If you have farm, if you any of you have worked in open fields, you will know that weeds ko remove karna is one of the biggest challenges for any farmer. To remove weeds is a very big challenge, and people end up using a lot of weedicides that amount to a very big chunk of residue that is in the final products. Final जब product मिलता है हमको, final vegetable fruits, उसमें कई बार हमारे लिए मुश्किल हो जाता है कि हम लोग वीडिसाइड का इफेक्ट कम कर सकें, तो बहुत ज्यादा पॉइजनस हो जाता है. बट ये प्रॉब्लम हमारे पास हाइड्रोपोनिक्स में नहीं, कि वीड मैट है, हमारे पास वीड्स ही नहीं है, तो लेबर टाइम भी बहुत बच रहा है, और इनडायरेक्ट इफेक्ट जो वीड्स के होते हैं वो उससे भी हम लोग बच पा रहे हैं. नाउ मिस नेहा इज आस्किंग, इज दिस हाइड्रोपोनिक्स कॉस्ट इफेक्टिव एंड अफोर्डेबल फॉर स्मॉल फार्मर्स? इन दी पास्ट इट वाज नॉट. आजकल हमारे पास बहुत सारी स्कीम्स है, गवर्नमेंट भी बहुत ज्यादा इसको प्रमोट कर रही है. वी हैव अ टुमारो सेशन दैट इज प्राइमरीली फोकस्ड ऑन फाइनेंशियल साइड्स ऑफ थिंग्स. So obviously, we will discuss this tomorrow, Ms. Neha. Okay, yeah. So coming to the disease and pest problems, this used to be a big problem earlier. Now this, as disease and pest, I told you, waterborne, soil-borne, and airborne diseases are greatly reduced. It also reduces the fungal diseases, little exposure to moisture. This is one of the advantages of hydroponics, which I think I have concluded many times. Then we comes to the nutrition. So, okay, so we have tailored and macro and micronutrients. So everything I told you, the nutrient solutions are tailor made for every crop. So we have a very good data right now. अगर हम 10 साल पहले बात कर रहे होते तो it would have been tough to identify that what kind of nutrients are required. But right now we are at that point of time that it's very easy for us. There has been a lot of research that has been done in this field, that we have very good recipes of all kind of nutrient mixtures for a lot of plants. So these nutrients are made in such a way that there is no residue on the final product. So we are giving only that much amount of nutrition that is required by the plant. So the residue is very less, almost negligible amount. Then we have water. Now water in NFT systems and DW systems, the water is being recirculated. The grow bag systems, the amount of water is almost 90% less, because the water that is being supplied is through drip irrigation system. And drip irrigation, we know, up to 90% of the water is saved. Plus it's a special type of drip irrigation system specially made for hydroponics. So there is even more saving of the water that is going on. Now this reduced water wastage, water usage, is one of the 5 main things that we have achieved through hydroponics, these primary benefits that we are calling it. Now these primary benefits also make way for secondary benefits. Now Mr. Manoj has a question that he wants us to share the information on marketing sales of the plants grown through hydroponics. So as I told you, Manoj, that the marketing, sales and financial side of the things, after post harvest kind of things, that we will discuss in the upcoming session, tomorrow's session. Okay, we will discuss the finances, and we will discuss the schemes, we will discuss the opportunities. Okay. Now secondary benefits. Now having a good root system that is not at risk from contaminants and diseases. I think this is very much self-explanatory, that we have a very good root system in this. So the roots do not have to reach out too much into the ground. So there is not a lot of nutrition going to the roots, but they are healthy enough because they are directly getting the nutrients at an accessible place. This reduces the risk of diseases also, and contamination also. Now this if also makes effective use of labor, which is increasingly expensive. I think this is one of the major problems that is growing in agriculture, that at the times that we need this labor in a huge supply, especially during the peak harvesting season or peak transplanting season, in open fields the labor required is very high, and we need a lot of labor for this. So there are a lot of machineries that are taking their place, and even in that case machineries are expensive. So the labor are more efficiently used in the polyhouses and hydroponic systems, because a lot of things are already automated. There's specific few things that are required in the harvest, sometimes in the harvesting, and sometimes in the transplanting time, that we require a little bit more labor. Otherwise जो labor हमें requirement है वो बहुत ही limited है हाइड्रोपोनिक सिस्टम्स में, क्योंकि काफी चीजें ऑटोमेट कर लेते हैं हम लोग, और बहुत सारी चीजें हम लोग ऑलरेडी कंट्रोल में ला चुके हैं. नाउ the another one of the secondary benefits that the plants are protected from UV radiation as they are within a greenhouse. अब हम ऑलरेडी ग्रीन हाउस के अंदर हैं, तो हमारा यूवी रेडिएशन का जो इशू है वो हम कम कर चुके हैं. Also there we talked about the shade nets, that are another layer of protection that we are giving our plants from the UV protection. So UV protection is also one of the things that we have eliminated. Now it offers a safe biological control of insects and pests. Now I think a lot of you might already know that organic control of pests and diseases is a very big challenge. हम लोग बहुत ज्यादा एडवोकेट करते हैं, गवर्नमेंट बहुत एडवोकेट करती है, बट ओपन फील्ड पे क्योंकि इतने टाइप के पेस्ट हैं, इतने टाइप के डिजीजेस हैं, कि ऑर्गेनिक प्रैक्टिसेस को प्रैक्टिकली फॉलो करना बहुत मुश्किल हो जाता है. It's very hard to practically be able to follow these organic practices on the field itself, because there is a variety of pests and diseases that attack the plants at the same time. But because we have limited amount of pests that can attack at a point of time inside a polyhouse, and the hydroponics is a very good system, so even if some disease or some pests come inside the polyhouse, then we can easily target one at a time, and you even use the biological controls like your neem oil and organic pesticides, organic weedicides. There are a lot of things that we can use inside the polyhouse very effectively. Now coming to the water is used effectively. Now water, I think it's very self-explanatory that water is very effectively used. I think we have talked a lot about this issue. Then producing the outstanding crops by using optimum nutrient formulations. So nutrient formulations, as I told you, everything is monitored, everything is controlled. So the crops that we get in the end are very good quality crops, both in terms of quantity and quality. Now the we allow allows nutrients to be reclaimed, rebalanced, and reused. Now the NFT systems that we talked about, it has a reservoir, and the nutrient mixed water is being recirculated. Now this recirculating system, what it does is that no nutrient is being wasted. So we need to only give that much nutrient to the plant that it requires. So there is no wastage of water, there is no wastage of nutrients also. So nutrients in general are very expensive, and we are able to, the working cost of the running cost of the polyhouse or hydroponics plant is very low. Setup cost can be a little high, but working cost is this working capital is very, very low because of this thing that we are able to reuse a lot of items. Okay, the resources are very easily used. Mr. Vivek is asking nutrients reclaimed in Hindi. Okay, nutrients reclaimed का मतलब ये है कि हम जो न्यूट्रिएंट सॉल्यूशन डाल रहे हैं पानी में, वो पानी आपका रीसर्कुलेट कर रहा है और रीयूज होता है कंटिन्यूअसली. अगर हम उनको पानी देते, ऊपर से पानी डालते, और तो काफी सारा पानी जो है, न्यूट्रिएंट्स और पानी दोनों जो है पानी में बह जाता, लेकिन वो पानी बह नहीं रहा है, वापस से रीयूज हो रहा है. तो एक तरीके से हमने वही न्यूट्रिएंट्स जो पहली बारी में, जो पहला आपने न्यूट्रिएंट फिल्म याद है, एक साइड से पानी डाल रहे थे, दूसरी साइड से ड्रेन हो रहा था, पहली बारी में जितने न्यूट्रिएंट्स अब्जॉर्ब नहीं हुए वो वापस से रिजर्वायर में जा चुके हैं. उसी रिजर्वायर से दोबारा ऊपर जाएंगे, वो न्यूट्रिएंट्स कंटिन्यूअसली उसी साइकिल में रिपीट होते रहेंगे जब तक वो प्लांट्स उनको क्लेम नहीं कर लेते. तो न्यूट्रिएंट्स आर रिक्लेम्ड कंटिन्यूअसली. Okay, okay. Now it can be protected from unpredictable weather patterns. Now this is actually a very big problem कि हम लोग weather और climate को हम लोग predict नहीं कर सकते. इंडिया का weather, it is known for its unpredictability. So one year there might be a very harsh flood. Next year you might witness a drought. So these kind of problems are very common in rural India. So what ends up happening is that this open field suffers a lot, but polyhouses are made in such a way, they are made specifically for this very purpose, that we do not have to worry about the unpredictability of weather patterns. Now I will conclude this and ask for your questions. So we have at least 10-15 minutes. We can discuss whatever we have gone through in the previous slides. Now Mr. Devesh Shukla is asking, could you tell us the finance related schemes about hydroponic business? So yes, Mr. Devesh, the finance and the opportunities, and there's also the financial sides of things. These will be discussed tomorrow. We will discuss about the hydroponic markets as well. We will talk about the government subsidies as well. This is scheduled for tomorrow. So tomorrow we will have a good session and we will discuss about this.
Okay, sir.
Sir, intercultural operations. Yes, I think names Neha, you asked that questions earlier also. So yeah, so the intercultural operations, how they're done. So what ends up happening is, in intercultural operations in hydroponics are little tricky. So what we end up doing is, I will give you an example. For example, here you can see this. I think this one, this. These are pretty much what you would consider a intercultural operation in hydroponics. Will be three different kinds of crops which have similar, what do you call this? Similar nutrient requirements. They will be grown like this. Okay. So we do not require intercultural operations as such, that we require in ओपन फील्ड, क्योंकि ओपन फील्ड में हमें रिक्वायरमेंट होता है ना कि हम लोग गेहूं के बीच में जो है हम लोग वो नाइट्रोजन फिक्सिंग लेग्यूम्स वगैरह लगा देते हैं, उससे नाइट्रोजन थोड़ा अवेलेबिलिटी बढ़ जाती है, बट ऐसा कुछ हमें यहाँ करने की जरूरत नहीं है. सो इंटरकल्चरल ऑप्शंस आर नॉट रिक्वायर्ड, But yeah, different types of crops can be grown in similar system if they have similar nutrient requirements. I think this clears your intercultural operation thing. The same can be done in any kind of polyhouse. So typically a polyhouse actually looks like this from inside. I think we have a photograph. This open row one. Can you see the photographs? We have different types of crops. So this 4 or 5 troughs will have different kind of crops. I think this is broccoli. I think it's not very visible. I think these are kales. Then we have this no types of cabbages. Sorry, types of what do you call this? I think these are Locarno. No, I think these are some kind of lettuce. Yeah, romaine lettuce, I think. So these different kind of crops can be grown in the similar systems, the same place. Now, another question, because tomorrow we will move on with a financial side of the things. Okay, Mr. Vivek, he's asking the optimum nutrient formulations. Is all kind of formulations are available in market, or we need to hire soil scientists? Okay, Mr. Vivek, see, there is a standard that has been set. So अगर आप मुझसे यही बात 10 साल पहले पूछते तो इट वुड हैव बीन अ डिफिकल्ट थिंग टू फाइंड दिस न्यूट्रिएंट फॉर्मुलेशंस, क्योंकि कोई सॉइल साइंटिस्ट अपना बना रहा है तो दे विल यूज इट फॉर देयर कंपनी ओनली. बट अभी पब्लिक में ऑलरेडी ये सारी बहुत चीजें ऑलरेडी पब्लिक हैं, तो वी हैव अ जनरल आइडिया कि इस वाले इस टाइप की क्रॉप्स के लिए इस टाइप का न्यूट्रिएंट सॉल्यूशन रिक्वायर्ड है. बट अगेन ये स्टैंडर्ड है, ये स्टैंडर्ड बनाया गया है लैब्स में, ये बनाया गया है ऑप्टिमम सिस्टम्स में. इन दी प्रैक्टिकल ऑन द प्रैक्टिकल साइड ऑफ थिंग्स, जब एक्चुअल आप फील्ड पे काम कर रहे हैं, यू नीड नॉट अ सॉइल साइंटिस्ट बट यू नीड एन एग्रोनॉमिस्ट टू ऑल्टर इट. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, आपके पास जो पानी है उसमें नॉर्मल पानी के मुकाबले बहुत ज्यादा कम मिनरल्स हो गए, और हमें पता चलता है भाई इसमें तो बिल्कुल आयरन जीरो है. नॉर्मल पानी में भी ऑलरेडी न्यूट्रिएंट्स होते हैं ना थोड़े, तो हम बिल्कुल वो क्या कहते हैं, डिस्टिल वाटर तो नहीं देते हैं. तो उस केस में हो सकता है कुछ न्यूट्रिएंट्स ऊपर नीचे हो, वो हमें प्लांट से पता चल जाएगा कि डेफिशिएंसी है. तो जो एक्चुअल न्यूट्रिएंट सॉल्यूशंस है उसमें थोड़ा सा ऑल्टरेशन किया जाता है, वो आप उसके लिए आपको एक एग्रोनॉमिस्ट अच्छा चाहिए. बट हाँ, पूरा डिजाइन स्टार्टिंग से लेके डिजाइन करने की ज्यादा जरूरत अभी नहीं पड़ती है. Obviously, you do not need a soil scientist, you only need an agronomist. I hope that clears, Vivek. Are formulations easily available in the market? Yes, they are very easily available for simpler. मतलब अगर आपको घर में उगाना है, if you are looking at home setups, simple gardening setups, then the formulations you can directly purchase the nutrient A and nutrient B solution. You can mix them and provide to the plants. अगर आप बड़ा plants चला रहे हो, there's a huge hydroponic system in place, commercial scale पे, then I think it's better that you hire an agronomist, so though there is no margin of error. Okay, now Miss Neha is asking, and vermicompost or manures can we apply? Now these nutrient solutions are specifically made for hydroponics, Miss Neha. So the vermicompost and manures, what ends up happening is we are using them to, already there are some nutrients in the soil. We are using the vermicompost and manures to enrich that soil. अगर हम लोग सब कुछ स्टार्टिंग से कर रहे हो तो हमारे लिए इजी होता है कि हम लोग कंट्रोल कर सके चीजों को. बट जब हम लोग कुछ चीज ऐड कर रहे हैं तो उसमें हमें न्यूट्रिएंट प्रोफाइल को जानना थोड़ा मुश्किल होता है. इस इजियर लैंग्वेज में यह है कि हम लोग न्यूट्रिएंट जो मिक्सचर्स हैं हमारे, वो हमने हाइड्रोपोनिक्स के लिए बनाए, इसको हम सॉइल में यूज नहीं करते हैं, वर्मी कंपोस्ट और मैन्योर्स में नहीं करते. ओके, मेरे ख्याल से मैं मिसअंडरस्टैंड कर रहा हूँ. आप ये भी पूछना चाहते हैं कि वर्मी कंपोस्ट और मैन्योर कैन वी अप्लाई इन दी हाइड्रोपोनिक सिस्टम्स? सो दैट वी कैन नॉट डू. वी नीड अ कंप्लीटली स्टेराइल ग्रोइंग मीडिया जिसके अंदर ऑलरेडी कोई न्यूट्रिएंट्स ना हो, वो सड़ने वाला मटेरियल ना हो, बायोडिग्रेड ना हो, जब तक हम लोग हाइड्रोपोनिक्स में यूज कर रहे हैं, और बिल्कुल साफ हो, उसमें कोई भी तरीके के कीड़े या बीमारियां नहीं होनी चाहिए. We need a completely sterile growing media. So vermicompost and manures we cannot use in hydroponic systems. Ms. Neha, I think I have answered both the, yeah, okay. Mentors may be available for polyfarm. Yes, I think it has become a standard that every time you build a polyhouse or a hydroponics farm, that you will require some kind of consultant for the initial, I think, couple of years. I think 1 year में भी कुछ लोग सीख जाते हैं बहुत easily, but initial years you need a agronomist to learn. Yeah. And mentors are easily available. We also do that at Farming Wave. Farming Wave actually we provide end-to-end solutions. तो हम build भी करते हैं, then up to 1 year we provide proper agriculture consultancy also. I hope that answers your question, Mr. Bhupendra. Okay. So any other questions? Okay, so feel free to connect with me, and so any of you, I think we have 50 or so participants. I will wait another 5-10 minutes. I think do ask any questions that you might have, because tomorrow it will be a jam-packed session, because I will explain to you more technical. It will get even more technical because I will be explaining to you the financials of the system, finances of the hydroponic systems. And also we will be going over the market availability and markets and everything. Okay, so initially land size. Mr. Bhupendra Kumar, you are asking about the initial land size that is required for hydroponics and polyhouse systems. So we will be discussing about that in future sessions, but for an initial idea, you can start from as little as around 560 square meters also. That is a very commercially viable farm. 560 square meters. It's considered smallest one, which is actually very financially viable one. Okay, Miss Sambhavi is asking difference between aeroponics and hydroponics. So aeroponics and hydroponics is a very simple thing. So I will explain it quickly. So what ends up happening is, so I will use this NFT diagram to explain this. So just imagine that here instead of using this pump, what we are doing, Miss Shambhavi, is instead of using this pipe, we have a sprayer. From here, this thing does not exist, and from here we have one pipe going, and there's a sprayer. This sprays water. This sprays the water in the form of mist, sprays it on the roots. So in that case, the amount of water required will be even less. The control we have on plant growth will be even more. It is a more sophisticated version, and even very typical, very tough system to use. So this is called aeroponics. We are using almost using no water, almost like we are using air to grow. These roots will be suspended, they will not be touching water, there will be no water here, and there will be only a pipe that will be connected to a mister, and this will provide the water in mist form. This will spray the water on roots. Roots पे हम लोग water spray कर रहे होंगे, उसको हम लोग कहेंगे aeroponics. थोड़ा ज्यादा sophisticated system है. In India, there is only one company that uses aeroponics. I think I told you that yesterday also. ITC uses aeroponic system to develop their tubers for potato tubers for Lay's company. I think Uncle Chips also buys the potato tubers for them. They buy the potato seeds from ITC. They give it to the farmers. Farmers grow the chips, and these chips, these potatoes, are used to make chips for you. Okay. Now, Mr. Devesh Shukla is asking, can we consider the produce from hydroponics organic? Now, it is a difference of opinion. This hydroponically grown produce is obviously it is residue free, but organic ka definition it's different. Organic is that is grown on soil without any human interference. नेचुरली आप लोग सिर्फ उसमें कोई भी केमिकल नहीं डालेंगे, बट इसमें केमिकल यूज होते हैं, बट इस तरीके से यूज होते हैं, देर इज नो रेसिड्यू इन द फाइनल प्रोडक्ट. सो ऑन पेपर इट्स नॉट ऑर्गेनिक, बट एज फार एज कंजम्पशन इज कंसिडर्ड, यूएस में भी और यूरोप में भी, आई थिंक, और ऑस्ट्रेलिया में भी, organic or residue free are used interchangeably. They're equally safe to consume. I hope that answers your question, Mr. Devesh. No, they are not organic, but yeah, they're pretty much similar to organic. Okay. Anyone? Is there any more question? I think it's almost 6 o'clock. What is vertical farming? Vertical farming, Mr. Shambhavi, this is nothing else. 1 second now. So you see this, vertical is anything that is being done on multiple layers. So, you know, I think this is very visible here. You see this particular setup. 1 second. This, we have multiple layers of NFT channels, one on top of one another. This is vertical farming. Nothing more, nothing less. If we want, if you see these troughs, black color troughs, we can build a steel structure and we can place another trough on top of this. This will be vertical farming. Vertical farming is nothing. It's a sort of a gimmick that a lot of companies use, vertical farming, but it is nothing but doing it on multiple layers. It's nothing very special. There's a very different category like hydroponics and this trough farming and this grow bag coco peat based farming. Vertical farming is nothing different. It's simply the farming that is done on multiple levels. Okay, so the multiple level farming that you can see here in the background, I think this is more visible. You see the multiple level farming that we're doing. This is called vertical farming. I hope this is clear, Mr. Shambhavi. Okay, so anyone, any more questions? I will move on to Mr. Chandan. Chandan bhai, is there any finishing remark that you want to give?
हाँ सर.
Okay,
तो आज का जो सेशन था वो हमारा डिफरेंट टाइप्स ऑफ क्रॉप्स एंड जर्मिनेशन एंड ट्रांसप्लांटेशन और इंटरकल्चर ऑपरेशंस, ट्रेनिंग, प्रूनिंग एंड इम्पोर्टेंस ऑफ मीटर्स ऑफ ईसी, पीएच एंड क्लाइमेट कंट्रोल, इन सब चीज़ों पे आज बात हुई. तो जब पॉली हाउस की बात आती है कि हम पॉली हाउस में क्यों करें, तो पॉली हाउस हम क्यों करें, तो पॉली हाउसेज में क्या होते हैं, कुछ मतलब एडवांटेज है जिसके वजह से हम पॉली हाउसेज में खेती करते हैं. पहला तो कंट्रोल इन्वायरमेंट है. दूसरा, CO2 ट्रैप करते हैं, जिसके वजह से क्या होता है कि जब डे टाइम पे प्लांट को CO2 मिलता है, जब नाइट में रेस्पिरेशन होती है प्लांट के अंदर तो CO2 रिलीज करता है. वही डे टाइम पे जब लाइट मिल जाती है तो CO2 कंज्यूम करता है. तो क्या प्लांट ग्रोथ में हेल्प हो जाती है, तो रैपिडली ग्रोथ करती है. एक पॉइंट ये था. दूसरा, प्रूनिंग करते हैं ताकि हमारा जो प्लांट है वो एक प्रॉपर, प्लांट को प्रॉपर न्यूट्रिएंट मिल सके. जो अनवांटेड लीफ है, स्टेम है, उसमें डिवाइड ना हो हमारा न्यूट्रिएंट जो हम सप्लाई कर रहे हैं. तीसरा चीज ये था कि किसी का क्वेश्चन था कि ए एंड बी दोनों अलग अलग क्यों होते हैं. अलग अलग इसलिए होते हैं कि कैल्शियम एंड फॉस्फोरस दोनों को एक अलग फॉर्म में रखते, अलग कंटेनर में रखते हैं ताकि दोनों प्रिसिपिटेट ना हो जाए, मिक्स ना हो जाए, जैसा कि अक्षय ने बताया. तो इसलिए हम दो अलग अलग कंटेनर में रखते हैं, अलग अलग कंसंट्रेशन का. तीसरा था कि पीएच को मैनेज कैसे करते हैं. पीएच को मैनेज हम ऐसे करते हैं कि अगर पीएच हाई हो गया है तो डाउन कर सकते हैं, क्योंकि हमें पता है कि प्लांट की जो रिक्वायरमेंट है वो pH 6 to 6.5 है। तो 6 to 6.5 है तो हमें मैनेज मैनेज करना है कि 6 to 6.5 ही हो, ताकि जो न्यूट्रिएंट की अवेलेबिलिटी है वो प्लांट के लिए हो पाए। ये बहुत ही इम्पोर्टेंट है कि हाइड्रोपोनिक्स में आपको पीएच मेंटेन करना ही पड़ेगा, क्योंकि न्यूट्रिएंट तभी अपटेक होगा प्लांट के द्वारा जब पीएच मेंटेन होगा। अगर आप गूगल पे सर्च करेंगे, पीएच चार्ट आप सर्च करेंगे फॉर हाइड्रोपोनिक्स, तो आपको वहाँ पे दिख जाएगा कि कौन कौन से एलिमेंट किस किस पीएच लेवल पे अपटेक होता है। इसलिए पीएच को मैनेज करना जरूरी है। क्लाइमेट कंट्रोल के लिए हम एसीएफ, फॉगर्स एंड एग्जॉस्ट फैन, कूलिंग पैड ये सब यूज करते हैं। जब ह्यूमिडिटी इंक्रीज करना रहता है तो फॉगर्स ऑन कर देते हैं। अगर रिड्यूस करना है, जैसा कि अक्षय ने बताया, तो एसीएफ ऑन कर देते हैं और सर्कुलेट कर देते हैं जो एयर है। तीसरा चीज है कूलिंग सिस्टम, कूलिंग फैन पैड, वो भी आपने देखा। तो एक बार ये कुछ चीजें मैं नोटिस किया तो वो आपको मैं बताया। अगर आपको इसके अलावा कुछ कंफ्यूजन है, जैसे एक चीज और था कि न्यूट्रिएंट डेफिशिएंसी, डेफिशिएंसी में क्या होता है कि प्लांट की डेफिशिएंसी होती है। तो जो एलिमेंट होते हैं जो हम प्लांट को दे रहे हैं, उसमें क्या होता है कि एलिमेंट, जो भी एलिमेंट यूज कर रहे हैं, नाइट्रोजन, फास्फोरस, पोटेशियम, मैग्नीशियम, कैल्शियम, बोरॉन, जितने भी एलिमेंट यूज करते हैं, सबकी अपनी प्रॉपर्टीज है। कुछ एलिमेंट प्लांट के अंदर मोबाइल होती है, कुछ एलिमेंट प्लांट के अंदर इमोबाइल होती है। तो जो प्लांट के अंदर मोबाइल होती है वो क्या होता है कि रूट्स के थ्रू जब सूट्स में जाता है तो वो मोबाइल होती है, तो वो ऊपर की तरफ चली जाती है। तो क्या होता है, कुछ एलिमेंट का नीचे प्लांट के निचले भाग में, जैसे ओल्ड लीफ हो गया, उसमें डेफिशिएंसी होता है। मान मान के चले हम जैसे नाइट्रोजन की बात करें तो ये प्लांट के अंदर मोबाइल होती है, तो इसकी डेफिशिएंसी आपको टॉप पे नहीं दिखेगी, इसकी डेफिशिएंसी आपको लोअर साइड दिखेगी। तो ये ऐसी प्रॉपर्टीज होती है जो डिफाइन करती है कि आप कौन कौन से एलिमेंट की जो है डेफिशिएंसी हो रही है। वो आपको पता चलेगा जब आपको प्रैक्टिस में आएंगे कि, क्योंकि आप देखे होंगे कि किसी भी एलिमेंट का, किसी भी क्या, अगर मोस्टली जब एलिमेंट की डेफिशिएंसी होती है तो येलो ही शो करता है। अब येलो तो मैग्नीशियम के डेफिशिएंसी से भी शो करती है, कैल्शियम के डेफिशिएंसी भी से भी शो करती है। अगर येलो हो रहा है दैट मीन्स कि नाइट्रोजन की भी डेफिशिएंसी है। तो एक फीचर्स है कि मैग्नीशियम का डेफिशिएंसी कब कब डेफिशिएंसी, अगर इंटरवेंडल क्लोरोसिस हो रही है तो हम बोलते हैं कि मैग्नीशियम की डेफिशिएंसी है। अगर पूरा का पूरा पत्ता पीला पड़ रहा है तो नाइट्रोजन की डेफिशिएंसी है। ऊपर डेफिशिएंसी आ रही है तो कैल्शियम बोरोन की डेफिशिएंसी है, क्योंकि कैल्शियम एंड बोरोन, कैल्शियम क्या है कि प्लांट के अंदर इमोबाइल है, तो टॉप पे इसकी डेफिशिएंसी शो करती है। तो ये सारी चीजें टेक्निकल है। जब आप लोगों में से कभी किसी का इंटरेस्ट हो तो आप ऑफलाइन ट्रेनिंग जब ज्वाइन करेंगे हमारा, तो उसमें आपको ये सारी चीजें बताई जाएगी, सिखाई जाएगी। तो क्योंकि ऑनलाइन इतना ज्यादा एक्सप्लेन कर पाना भी चीजों को, कुछ एक पॉइंट था टॉक्सिसिटी का। प्लांट के अंदर टॉक्सिसिटी होती है। अगर आपने से बताया अभी कि एलिमेंट अगर आपने ज़्यादा दे दिया, कंसंट्रेशन ज़्यादा दे दिया, या किसी नाइट्रोजन का कंसंट्रेशन आपने बढ़ा दिया थोड़ा सा, तो टॉक्सिसिटी भी शो करती है। अगर डेफिशिएंसी होती है तो हम न्यूट्रिएंट में नहीं मिक्स करते हैं अलग, हम क्या करते हैं कि उसको स्प्रे के थ्रू ले लेते हैं। तो उस तरीके से हम डेफिशिएंसी भी मैनेज करते हैं। इसके अलावा कुछ क्वेश्चंस हो तो आप लोग पूछ सकते हैं, क्योंकि टाइम भी हो गया है। इसके अलावा कल फिर फाइनेंस एंड मार्केटिंग, एंड कल आपको एक भी कराएंगे।
हेलो सर।
हाँ बोलिए।
सर ये यहाँ पे है कि सेफ्रॉन इन हाइड्रोपोनिक्स, इसके फाइनेंशियल वायबिलिटी जो कि डिबेटेबल है, इसका कोई आप रेफरेंस दे सकते हैं क्या? कोई आर्टिकल जैसे कहाँ डिबेटेबल पाया गया हो ऐसा कुछ?
नहीं, डिबेटेबल एक्चुअली क्या है कि हमारा जो हम लोग बनाते हैं, जब हम लोग, एक्चुअली आपको पता होगा फार्मिंग में हम लोग काफी सारे प्रोजेक्ट्स हम लोग ने बनाए हैं। तो जब हम सेफ्रॉन की वायबिलिटी देखते हैं हम लोग जब विजिट करते हैं लोगों को, तो सेफ्रॉन बहुत ही स्पेसिफिक केसेस में आपके लिए फाइनेंशियली वायबल होता है, मतलब बहुत महंगा सेटअप होता है सेफ्रॉन का।
ऑफ कोर्स।
हाँ, और हम लोग ने उस पर काम किया हुआ है, चंदन ने स्पेसिफिकली सेफ्रॉन पे काम किया हुआ है, तो वो हम लोग स्टार्टिंग में हम लोग कोशिश करते हैं कि आप लोग नॉर्मल क्रॉप्स पे जाओ, एंड देन सेफ्रॉन इज समथिंग दैट यू लर्न इन द लेटर स्टेजेस। आई थिंक चंदन विल वुड लाइक टू ऐड ऑन दिस।
सेफ्रॉन करना चाहते, एक तो ये क्या है ना, कमर्शियली वायबल इसलिए हम नहीं बोलते हैं कि एक तो आपको इतनी सारी चीजें मेंटेन करनी पड़ती है, टेम्परेचर, ह्यूमिडिटी एंड ऑल थिंग्स एंड सैनिटेशन। एंड दूसरी चीज क्या है कि फिर आपको मार्केट का एक रहता है कि हम कहाँ पे इसको सेल करें, वो सारी चीजें हैं। और सेटअप कॉस्ट भी ऑब्वियसली ज़्यादा ही होता है। तो हम लोग पहले प्रेफर करते हैं कि अगर स्टार्ट करना चाहते हैं तो आप एनएफटी या फिर नेचुरल वेंटिलेटेड पॉली हाउसेस पे जाएं, जो कि इजीली मार्केट में चला जाता है। और किसी का कोई क्वेश्चन है तो?
जी, मिस संभवी पूछ रही है एनी लाइसेंस और परमिशन रिक्वायर्ड, इसके बारे में हम लोग ये कल बात करते हैं, किस तरीके से आप
हाँ,
प्लांट सेटअप
लाइसेंसिंग
करते हैं।
वगैरह सब भी हम लोग कल बात करते हैं, है ना। फाइनेंस, लाइसेंसिंग, ये सब सारी चीज़ें हम कल डिस्कस करते हैं फर्दर, जो भी चीज़ें रह गई हैं। बाकी कल एक बार और अच्छे से समराइज कर देंगे टोटल 3 डेज के सेशन को, थोड़ा सा टाइम अगर रहेगा तो, है ना। बाकी आप लोग कुछ क्वेश्चंस बना लीजिए कि क्या क्या कंफ्यूजन रह गया है आपको, क्या क्या आपको पूछना चाहिए जो आपको समझ में नहीं आया, या फिर आपके एंड से कुछ क्वेश्चंस हैं, तो वो एक बार आप लोग प्रिपेयर कर सकते हैं। और उसके अलावा कल जो है एक डेडिकेटेड टाइम रहेगा जहाँ पे सिर्फ क्वेश्चन आंसर्स ही रहेंगे, 30 मिनट्स का, तो वो सारी चीजें क्लियर हो जाएगी।
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, अच्छे सर। एंड ऑल
थैंक
पार्टिसिपेंट,
यू सो
अगर
मच
कोई
फॉर
क्वेश्चन
ज्वाइनिंग।
रह गया हो तो कल की मीटिंग में सेम टाइम पे हम लोग फिर जुड़ेंगे, तो कल के सेशन में आप सभी लोग अपने क्वेश्चंस को नोट करके रखिए, ये कल सर से डिस्कस कर सकते हैं आप लोग। थैंक यू सो मच एक बार आप सभी लोगों का, ये पेशेंट बनाए रखने के लिए, कोई डिस्टर्बेंस नहीं क्रिएट किया आप लोगों ने। कल फिर मिलते हैं इसी टाइम पे।